Hello there, runneers. It's Manny again, and if you've ever wanted to run a Run Disney race, this is the channel for you. So please subscribe if you haven't already. We're going to talk about coast to coast today. Some people have been asking questions online, so I figured it's time to make a video just about coast to coast. So we're going to do that shortly. We're going to go over the history of it. We're going to go what's going on right now and maybe even the future of it. But before we do, again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Keep asking your questions. This is the reason I'm making this video. You guys were asking questions. Now this video is coming out. So please keep asking your questions. Share the information out there. The subscribership is growing. We're going to hit 2,000, I know, later on this year. But thank you very much, and we're going to get right to it. So although Disney Worlds had their first marathon in 1994 and Disneyland followed suit a few years later in 1996, they actually did not have coast to coast for a while. Coast to coast was actually introduced in 2008. Now, my first coast to coast was in 2013. I remember because I did the Goofy Challenge, and then I actually went out to the expo, and when I was at the expo, they were signing people up for this thing called the Dumbo Double Dare, which was going to be later on that year at Disneyland, and you could actually qualify for coast to coast. So here was the medal from that one right there, and let's see if we can see it. Yes. So if you notice on the lanyard, it says 2013. But look at the medal, and there's a reason why I'm bringing it out. So for the next 5 years, I actually did coast to coast in one way or another. And so what ended up happening is the medal was basically the same. It was just the lanyard that was different. Now there was one exception. If you did Princess as coast to coast, your medal was actually pink. I do not have one because I never did that. So they had the Coast to Coast Challenge basically for 10 years. The last year was 2017. The reason that they stopped was not because of the pandemic. That was a few years before the pandemic. It was because they stopped all the Disneyland runs because there was construction going on. That's their official word. There was construction going on. But in 2017, I remember doing this. So this was a 10-year anniversary. And we're going to look at the lanyard because it does say 10-year anniversary. And it does say 2017 on there. So that was the last year they actually officially had a coast to coast until recently. So also just to let you guys know, Star Wars had their own coast to coast medal. It was called the Kessel Run. I have the casings right behind me. So let's take a look at those. So this is the last one they had. And if you look at this on this 2017, this was Disneyland. This was the first one they did. And then this was at Disney World. So this was January, this was April, and in the middle you have the Kessel Run, which was very, very awesome. So it looks right there. You can see it right there. The Disneyland Half Marathon was the light side, and over there at Disney World, it was the dark side. So as you see, they were really, really cool because they had the light side on one side and the dark side on the other side. So if you did both of them, they gave you another medal, which was the Kessel Run, and you actually got the coast to coast also. But again, that was all finished in 2007. After 2017, 2018, Disneyland had discontinued their runs up until recently. So now we're going to forward to 2022 when they decided to announce that the Disneyland runs were coming back in 2024. And right away when they announced it, they basically, once they updated everything, they actually talked about coast to coast medals. And so they decided to do that in 2024. Well, in 2024, they had two. They had track 1 and track 2. I did not save any of that, but it was really, really confusing. Even to us veterans, it was kind of confusing. I qualified for both since I had done all the runs, so I was able to get both medals. But it was kind of confusing. A lot of people didn't like the medals, and so they kind of switched it over in 2025 to just one medal, and so it got less confusing. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Run Disney webpage, and we're going to basically go over coast to coast in its recent incarnation. So hello there again. We are going to start off on the runDisney.com page like we always do. This is your go-to place. So if you have any comments, and any questions, this is probably the first place you're going to go to. Please ask me. But again, I'm just going to go back over here. So the first thing I want to point out is at Disneyland Resort, it says the 2025 runs. It says Halloween. but in 2026, it does state that details are yet to come. So we don't know anything about Coast to Coast next year. So this is going to be for this year and hopefully next year, but you're going to be able to find your information here. So we're going to click on events, and we're going to go down to the bottom where it says Run Disney Coast to Coast. You're going to click on the bottom, and it's going to take you to this page. So you're going to be able to see, and I got another computer up here, so just in case I need to look at something, I can see it right there. Alrighty, so it goes and it shows you 2025 qualifying race combinations. So it's going to give you what the races are at Disney World. On the left side, choose one race at, and then it gives you on the right Disneyland. So of course, half of these have already already passed. So the next one up is Run Disney Springtime Surprise 10 miler. So that's going to be coming up. So just make sure that you understand that that's going on. Okay. So remember that you only get one medal this year. Okay. So welcome to Coast to Coast Coast to Coast Race Challenge. Complete any 10-mile race or longer at both Walt Disney World Marathon Resort and Disneyland Resort in 2025 and receive the Run Disney Coast to Coast Challenge medal. So there's going to be a lot of questions right here. One thing to point out is that if you do Goofy, you do the Dopey, you do the Fairy Tale Challenge, you do the 2-course challenge, you do the Dumbo Double Dare, or you do the Chills and Thrills Challenge, they all count. So because since the half marathon is included in there, and even the marathon is, so that's there. So how to qualify? So we basically just went over that. So you're going to complete a half marathon or challenge during either the 2025 Disneyland half marathon weekend or the Halloween, and then of course you're going to do what it says here for. We just went over it for Walt Disney World, but we'll go over it real quick. So either the Walt Disney World half marathon or marathon, and of course that includes the Goofy and the Dopey challenge. So Disney Prince half marathon or Disney Fairy Tale Challenge, Run Disney Springtime 10 miler, or the Springtime Surprise Challenge, the Wine and Dine 2-course. Okay. So again, it goes over what I just said right here. Important information. So make sure that you get this important information. Now, this is not a long video. We're going to be able to get through this pretty quickly. So guests will not need to register for the Run Disney Coast to Coast. As I've already explained, it used to be a little bit different back in the day before the pandemic, and so that it was interesting. It was a lot. There was a lot of changes. So. Both qualifying races must be completed in 2025. So the next point is Run Disney Coast to Coast Race Challenge medals will be available after crossing the finish line on the second race. I have seen some comments saying, well, I just finished my first one, where's my medal? And so that answers the question right there. Guests must be 14 years or older to participate, but we're going back to the rules of the marathon, the half marathon, all that stuff. You got to be 14 or older to participate in these longer distances anyway. So the next point is, please be aware that participation in virtual races do not count towards eligibility for the Run Disney Coast to Coast Race Challenge medal. This is a lot more clear now because basically they're all just shorter runs. The virtual runs are now, but they used to be where they had the marathon weekend and then they had marathon virtual. So, and as of now, they don't have that. So. Now, the next one, we're going to go to it. It says, please visit our frequently asked questions page for additional information. So we are going to do that. We're going to coast on this. And so frequently asked questions, just real briefly, general registration, FAQs, account management, Club Run Disney, my account. And here we go. Run Disney on the left-hand side, Coast to Coast Challenge. What is it? And again, we've gone over this, but if you complete 10-mile or longer distances on both coasts, you have to complete them on both coasts, and you will get the challenge. Where can I pick up my Run Disney wristband? Okay, this is going to be interesting because I'm going to state this again and so forth. You will receive a wristband at the Run Disney Health and Fitness Expo when you pick up your runner's bib for your second qualifying race. So for example, you did Disneyland earlier this year and now you're going to do Springtime Surprise. So that will be on your bib. You're going to see eligible. It's going to say eligible. If you have already gotten one medal, it's not going to be eligible. If you haven't done, if you're going to be doing the Chills and Thrills Challenge, and this is your first one, it's going to basically say not eligible until you get that. But it's going to be in your check-in pass, and it might say this a little bit later. So I did not receive my Run Disney Coast to Coast wristband at the Run Disney Health and Fitness Expo. Where can I get it before the race starts? This is a good question because you might forget. You might just and they're going to give it to you no matter what. But let's say you forgot. Okay, you may visit the info tent with your bib and photo ID to receive your wristband. So that answers that question. What do I need to pick up my Run Disney Coast to Coast wristband? And they just answered that your bib and your photo ID. Okay. Where can I get my Run Disney Coast to Coast Challenge medal? And we've answered that also. You will receive it at the finish line chute after completing your second qualifying race. There is, and it just says there, but there is signs everywhere. If you've seen my videos, you will see them. The run videos, you'll see that. I didn't get my Run Disney Coast to Coast Race Challenge wristband at the Run Disney Health Expo, but I completed my second qualifying race. How do I get my medal? You need a Run Disney Coast to Coast Race Challenge wristband to receive it. So if you do not have it, they're not going to give you one. So they're not going to give it to you. But let's say you have forgotten, it fell off, whatever it is. We will take your name, email address, mailing address, bib number, and date of birth, and we will confirm you are a Run Disney Coast to Coast Race Challenge participant. We will mail you a Run Disney Coast to Coast Challenge medal. That's great that you're going to get it. I understand the frustration because you want to take some pictures with it. So that's going to be the problem there. So, okay. Next one is I'm not on the list of Run Disney Coast to Coast Race Challenge participants, but I have completed it. That happened to me before, not after, but that happened to me before. So what do I do? How do I get my medal? Fortunately, we will not be able to give you your Run Disney Coast to Coast Challenge medal immediately. So calm, patience. We will take your name, address, bib number, and date of birth, and we will confirm you are Run Disney Coast to Coast Challenge participant. We will mail you your Run Disney Coast to Coast Challenge medal. Again, not the ideal situation. What I do is I sometimes take my mine. So I always tell people, if you want to take a picture, you're more than welcome to. If you run 2 races in different years on each coast, am I eligible to run? So let's say you ran last year's Wine and Dine, and you did the half marathon, or you did the Chills and Thrills last year. Will you be eligible? And the answer is no, right here. In order to be eligible, you have to do it finish a race, the 10-mile or longer, and it's both within the same year. And at the bottom it says the calendar year is January 1st through December 31st. They basically changed everything. And then the last question here is if I run multiple qualifying races on both coasts in the same calendar year, will you be registered for 2 medals? And the answer is no. Now this kind of confuses people because last year there were 2 medals, and I'll go over that in a little bit. But no, eligible participants may only receive 1 Run Disney Coast to Coast Challenge medal regardless of the number of qualifying races. So here it is, so you can see it all. We've gone over the whole thing. Now let's go back to explaining what's going on. So as you can see, you actually got all the information right there. So I'm going to add a tidbit. So this is going to be what you're going to be getting if you are eligible to do the Coast to Coast. It is going to be in your check-in pass. And I'll explain what used to happen in a little bit, but let's take a look at the check-in pass as it is right now. So this is a check-in pass, and if you notice, there's going to be Coast to Coast on the left-hand side. Either read eligible or not eligible. I was eligible. So it's pretty easy. You're going to be able to see that. You're going to be eligible. Again, if you do not see that you're eligible and you know that you are, go to Runner Relations and make sure that you let them know. That way, hopefully they can clear it up before the weekend, and so they won't have to mail it to you. The reason that I always like the medals right away instead of getting them mailed to you is for pictures, so you can take pictures. What I always tell people is, I said, if I'm around and I have an extra medal, I'm more than glad to lend it so that you guys can get some pictures. So not to worry if I'm around, but again, I'm not always going to be around. So it's going to be something that hopefully they take care of, and they seem to be on top of it most of the time. So this system is a lot better than what they used to have. We actually used to register through active.com. It was a little bit different, and I can go into details, but I'm going to give you the synopsis. So we didn't know what time it would open up. Sometimes they even opened up a day before. Sometimes it was on time. Sometimes it was later. So it was a big mess. It was a lot different. But one of the questions was, are you doing coast to coast? And if you answered yes, I think you had to put in a link, and so that was it. Most of the time they got it right. One time they did not get it right. So I remember I was at Disneyland and they didn't get it right. They weren't going to give me my coast to coast. The band, like I said, they're going to give you this band that you're going to have to wear, and you're going to have to wear it all weekend. Sometimes it gets annoying. But anyways, I had to go, and they had it set up for computers. And so I had to get on the computers. I had to wait about 35, 40 minutes to get there. Then I had to print it out, then go back and wait in line again to get my band. And so they were able to get it for me. So I think that this system is a lot better. Again, you have any questions about this, go to Runner Relations. And just to be clear, the way they do it now is by your registration email or your account email. So they send everything to that account email. That's why it's very, very important to log in when you register and make sure you have the correct email. So that's it. I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Do you have any more questions about coast to coast? Are you doing it? And what are your thoughts about it? What do you think about the medals? So I'm going to turn it over to you. Ask questions down below, and I'll answer them as quickly as possible. So 2 things before I leave. Number 1 is I am going to do a video because the virtual summer series medals and the theming just dropped. I think they're very, very cool. I'm going to go over that video. I feel like it needs its own little video, and so that's going to be coming soon. And then the second thing, a lot of people have been asking, hey, we need more training videos. So what I thought of, especially after Springtime Surprise, I'm going to basically train myself, and I'm going to add on to the videos how I'm going to be training myself, and I am starting on something today. So nutrition is a big, big part of your training process. Put it this way, if you put bad gas, bad oil in your car, it's not gonna run right. So nutrition acts the same way. So what I'm starting to do is for the next 2 weeks, it's a no added sugar diet. What that means is any food that has added sugar. So for example, fruits and some vegetables already have sugars, but there is no empty calories. So there's vitamins and minerals. So I'm gonna be cutting that out. And 2 things that I'm gonna be looking for, especially right off the back, is number 1 is weight. How much weight can I drop in a couple of weeks? And number 2 is gonna be pain threshold, because I do run with some pains. I'm a little bit older now. So I'm gonna basically test it out, and I'm gonna let you guys know what happens. But that's it for this video. I thank you very much for sticking with me. I have a lot of stuff coming up. Please ask down below. Again, today's video is proof that if you ask questions down below, you ask enough, a video will come out. And thank you guys for being who you are. And without further ado, create a magical day, create a magical run. And guys, we will see you sooner than later.